Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been selling their data privately instead of giving it away for free since 2017. I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, or the other way around if that's how you want to say it. Two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years, but they decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. How we doing?
Great. Pretty good. Are we doing that with our data? I didn't know we were doing that.
I've been doing it. I've been selling it on the side. You know, it's pretty lucrative.
Nice. I've never heard of that before in my life. I don't know what that is. What are you doing?
I figured I put it all on a hard drive. You know, like I take my browser data from Chrome, and then I just call up Google's sales department, and I sell them my own data.
That's a scary place. Your browser history?
What? Why is that scary?
It's a dark and scary place, I'm sure.
I
don't even want to know what's in it. Huh?
Anyway,
dark web?
I don't know. The videos,
dark web.
Weird videos that
selling
you send
my
us?
family members for Bitcoin on the dark web.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Also lucrative, but not as lucrative as selling my own data.
Well, it's a growth industry. Keep it up. Let us know how it goes.
It's an emerging market.
Excellent.
So what happened in fantasy football this week?
A ton happened in week 10, which is crazy that we're in week 10. I can't believe it already. It's insane. I just saw this week a ton of solid wide receiver performances. We were looking at like the guys that we were going to give our blue chip awards to, and there were so many that we could have given it to. A couple guys out of nowhere. Robbie Anderson on the Jets, Robert Woods on the Rams. Again, coming out of nowhere. Woods had 2 touchdowns. Robbie Anderson had a long touchdown and has had 4 solid weeks. These guys are looking like wide receiver 2s, which is crazy to think about coming into the season. Another thing, NFL in general, how the mighty have fallen. The Giants, teams like the Giants and the Broncos that were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago Eli, the Giants have a high pedigree quarterback. The Broncos don't as much, but the Broncos have a top tier defense. Those teams suck. They've just fallen so far down.
No.
And I just love seeing those teams.
Not the Giants.
I love it.
Wallow year after year and get worse and worse. And I think in this order, these are the worst teams. It goes Browns, then Giants, then 49ers, and then the Broncos. I'm going to say those 4 in that order are the worst teams.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. For me, I mean, I could wallow in the negatives of this week, like Antonio Brown only catching 3 passes for 47 yards against the Indianapolis Colts, and the Cowboys just, coming out and laying an egg against Atlanta. But, we'll get to plenty of that throughout the podcast. But on the plus side, my biggest takeaway is guys like Adam Thielen and Greg Zuerlein are just studs. Adam Thielen looks like I don't even know a comparison. Who would you compare him to? But this guy is just
Wes Welker?
Like a Wes Welker, but he's more explosive. He's more of a down-the-field guy, too. This guy is just phenomenal football player. And he's looking fantastic for the Minnesota Vikings. Greg Zuerlein might be the greatest kicker to ever walk this earth. I mean, it's just,
could be.
It's the little things that are going to get you through in fantasy football. That's my message for this week.
Love it. Rob, what happened with you with fantasy this week? Did you remember to set your lineups?
I did, but I think I might have gotten to it a little bit late. But that seems like a pointed question, Scott, because I think you already know what happened this week.
I did.
Yeah, we'll get into it later.
Yeah, we'll get into it later.
I'm just gonna spread my own fake news here. I won the league.
You already won it in 10
week
weeks?
10? You already won it? You got it locked up already?
I already
really
played
proud
the
of you,
extra.
man.
I played my games extra already.
You're really taking this advice to heart and really using it really well.
I used the speed pass.
It's awesome, man. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Little preview for the listeners out there. We have a special guest for the Blue Chips and Duds section. So we'll announce it at the time, but get ready. Get ready to
prepare
those
yourselves.
Sections.
You're not
prepare
ready.
yourselves. It's going to be mind-blowing. Anyway, let's get into injuries from week 10. We got a couple here per position. Nothing too bad, but we're just going to rattle them off. Marcus Mariota had a left shoulder injury. He should be fine, but he is playing Thursday, so be sure to check his status. Jacoby Brissett, the Indianapolis quarterback, had a concussion and concussion-like symptoms after the game, so he's in the protocol now. They have their bye next week, but coming out of the bye as like a bye week fill-in guy, be careful of him. And then Brett Hundley, another kind of low-end quarterback here, had a hamstring injury. He should be fine as well, but if you had like Aaron Rodgers and you had to start Brett Hundley because of Carson Wentz was on bye or something, he's a little hampered here.
Yeah, my biggest injury takeaway from the entire week, I think, is Devontae Freeman had a concussion, and this is his second concussion of the season. He had one, I think, in one of the preseason games, or maybe it was a preseason practice, but it's definitely his second one this year. He's in the protocol, and it might be a multi-week absence. I think as long as he's out, Tevin Coleman is a new running back one. I think having Atlanta's backfield to himself is going to be a really great thing for Coleman, and they really need to get something going, so I think they're going to need to lean on him a little bit.
And he's already been ruled out for Monday night game next week.
Exactly. So we know for sure he's going to miss next week, and it's looking likely that Freeman will be out multiple weeks. Ty Montgomery, another rib issue. Again, he came back off a rib injury, and he, probably re-aggravated it or maybe messed up a different set of ribs. So I think he's probably going to be out for a few games. And then Aaron Jones possibly sprained his left MCL. He might also be out multiple weeks. So we're looking at Jamal Williams kind of emerging in the Packers backfield. I think we'll get to him in the waiver wire section, but definitely someone to keep in mind. And then the last running back to mention, Rob Kelly, injured his foot, and he was on crutches after the game, so that opens things up in the Washington backfield as well.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones is going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks. I think Schefter just recently reported it.
Oh, nice.
So
all right.
Definitely pick up Jamal Williams. We'll get to that. Wide receivers, Doug Baldwin on Thursday night injured his groin. He should be fine moving forward because he has a good amount of time to recover. Another wide receiver, Allen Hurns on Jacksonville. He injured his foot. He was in a walking boot after the game, which isn't too good. He wasn't really the top target there anyway. It was really Marquise Lee, and that should continue. Will Fuller on the Texans has a cracked rib potentially. So he's out at least one game, looking like it might be more, but be on the lookout for him. And then tight ends, Delaney Walker had a wrist injury, and he's battling an ankle injury, a nagging ankle injury. He should be fine, but check his status before Thursday night for the game. All right, let's get into blue chip guys for week 10. These are guys that won you your week. We have a special blue chip and dud section this week. We have a special guest, Andrew McCarty, member of the Hoboken Fantasy Football League.
Hey!
What's going on? How are we doing?
It's good to be here. I've been wanting to get on the pod for a long time. Had to fight claw, tooth, and nail to get on here, and now we're finally here.
You really did. You're a long-time listener, first-time caller, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, we appreciate we appreciate that.
He's still recovering from the beating he took from me this week.
Is that what happened? Do you recall that happening?
When Murray scored his 3 touchdowns, I almost threw my TV out the wall.
Well, I just want to point out that Rob had Jay Ajayi, who we all know is on the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all know he's on a bye this week. Had him in his lineup up until must have been Sunday morning or something. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty late, and you somehow managed to pull him out of your lineup.
I was playing psychology games.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. McCarty appreciates that.
That's how advanced I am.
Yeah, and you really, you losing by 50 points is a really good psychology game there. Good job. I'm proud of you.
It's the long con. He's playing.
Yeah.
Big risk, big risk, reward. Big reward. You know what they say.
I just like to point out that, like, the three, I'll say you have an okay team, Rob. The 4 of us have pretty good teams, but the one team I'm afraid of in the playoffs is McCarty's team. It's just like a juggernaut. You lost Ezekiel Elliott. Doesn't matter.
And
reloading. And Rodgers. What do you have to say about that?
All right, so let's get one thing straight from the beginning of the season here. I picked up Aaron Rodgers 4th round. Was shocked that no one picked him up sooner. Snaps his collarbone in half. All right, fine. I make a trade for Deshaun Watson. Next week he tears his ACL.
Watson. Oh, my God. We got to get Tom Brady. Again, someone please trade Tom Brady to this team so the Jets can have a chance here.
So I pick up Jared Goff, and the dude goes off the last 2 weeks. Then I listen to the pod. You guys tell me, hey, pick up Woods. I did. Put him in there. Boom.
Look at that.
You're welcome.
You're.
I feel like we should lower our quality here, Scott.
I think we should. I think. Well, what you and I do is what do we do? We sabotage, secretly sabotage each other.
We leave out one little detail, but Robert Woods is that one detail that I probably would have left out if we didn't have this podcast.
Yeah, Robert Woods kind of sucks. I don't know if you should put him in your lineup, man. Yeah. Russia's kind of cold. What did they say in Anchorman? Anyway, forget it. Let's talk about Blue Terror Chip guys of the week. So we're going to talk about 3 guys: gold, silver, and bronze. We're going to give out gold, silver, bronze. So our choices here are Robert Woods, who we just talked about, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, looking like a wide receiver 2. We got Mark Ingram, 3 rush touchdowns on Sunday, running back 1 for the rest of the year, pretty much locked in. And then Jared Goff, who we also just mentioned, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, looking like a fringe QB1. Who's taking the gold, silver, bronze, Blue Terror Chip guys this week?
For me, it's got to be Mark Ingram as the gold. I don't know. Between the other 2, that's fine. They're teammates. They both had great games. So Mark Ingram killed me this week. I played him in 2 different leagues, and he just drove me nuts. First off, I think it's crazy that him and Alvin Kamara are both running back 1s on that New Orleans Saints backfield. But for me, Ingram, he was infuriating, and that's the kind of performance you want from a guy that's going to get the gold medal.
I think you got to put Woods up at the top of the conversation there. The dude is the bona fide number 1 on the highest scoring offense in the NFL. He's going to put up points like nobody's business. Ripped off a 94-yard touchdown, and I almost creamed my panties watching that one.
That was a sweet play.
Yeah, creamed his panties. That sounds interesting. 10 targets too. I'm going to give it to Robert Woods as well. 8 receptions.
I'm down with that.
171 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 targets. That's good for 37.1 PPR points. And then last week against the Giants, he had 2 touchdowns for 70 yards and 23 PPR points. So to me, he's looking like a locked-in wide receiver 2. I think you got to put him in your lineup. All right, let's get into other quarterback performances. We'll go position by position. So we just mentioned Goff. Fringe QB1 for the rest of the year. What do you guys think?
I think so. I think the QB's just position around the league has been so up and down. You know, even guys that we typically count on as QB1s like Cam Newton have been up and down. Matt Ryan's on a downswing this year. You'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that's more consistently good than Jared Goff, and with that offense, I'd plug him in my lineup.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean, the Rams have high-scoring offense in the NFL. They're going to put up points, and it's not only Gurley that's doing it. They're throwing it all over the place. So with Andy Dalton struggling, like Aaron Rodgers is out, Deshaun Watson is out, you're not really going to find too many other plug-and-play guys, and he's right at the top of my list.
Yeah, I agree. He's on pace for 28 touchdowns this year and 4,200 yards. So if he keeps that up, that's pretty much
wow.
End of QB1 discussion there. Another guy, middling QB1, that's kind of gotten in our good graces, Kirk Cousins. A little wonky of a game. He had 2 rush touchdowns, so that inflated his stats. Even if he didn't have those, he would have had 15 points. So again, looking like a QB1. And then another guy, Case Keenum, a blue chip guy for this week, 4 touchdowns versus Washington. He did have 2 picks, but definitely looks like a guy that you could pick up. Again, if you had like an Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, maybe you have a Goff, maybe you pair him with Keenum, looking like maybe a QB2.
Yeah, I think with Case Keenum, just his supporting cast is just so good. I think Adam Thielen's a star. Stephon Diggs is a star when he's on the field, that is. And, you know, with those guys around you, it doesn't even matter if you have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater nipping at your heels. Case Keenum, as long as he keeps playing like he's playing right now, I would say you got to play him. I think you obviously probably have a starter in your lineup if you do have Case Keenum on your roster, but based on matchups, I think I would probably play matchups the rest of the way because this Vikings offense is for real.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, there's no way Bridgewater's going to see the field. And that kind of hurts, but if he keeps throwing 4 touchdowns, 300 yards every game, I mean, he's not going to get taken off. And Kirk Cousins, I love the man. He loves playing football. All he does is lead his Redskins that the entire offensive line just wants to see him get wrecked every week, and all he does is come out and perform.
And his coach.
Love the guy.
Oh, my God.
And the coach, yeah. You like that?
You like that?
You like that? Yeah, Case Keenum on pace for 20 touchdowns, and he hasn't played the full year, and over 3,000 yards, so that's pretty good for a bye-week filling guy. Let's talk about running backs. So we mentioned Mark Ingram, 3 rush touchdowns, looks like a locked-in running back 1. That offense is running it a ton, and they made a point to do that in the beginning of the season coming into it, and they stayed true with that. DeMarco Murray, we mentioned him a little bit too. 2 rush touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. A couple weeks ago, he was kind of on the downswing where he was looking like a high-end flex, like a low-end running back 2, just not given the production, but looking like a steady running back 2 now. Back into it.
Yeah, I think he's just such a built-in part of their identity as a team that as long as he's on the field, I would say he's probably a low-end running back 1, just because they use him so much in the red zone and he catches the ball out of the backfield. He clearly is the number 1 to Derrick Henry's number 2. Whether that's good for that team overall in the long term, maybe not, ideal, but right now he's the main guy in their offense, so you need in your lineup.
I think more shocking than the fact that the Saints have a good defense is the fact that they're running the ball so successfully.
Yeah.
They have become a run-first team instead of having Breeze sling it all over the yard. I mean, they had 5 rushing touchdowns and over 300 yards in the last game, and I don't know, they're looking pretty good there.
Yeah, and especially against Buffalo, too. That was an impressive feat there. Buffalo had a really steady rush defense there. But yeah, I would actually agree. Low-end running back 1 there for DeMarco Murray. Derrick Henry, maybe a flex guy, still getting some work there, but a low-end flex. And then another guy, Alvin Kamara, the second fiddle, kind of, to Mark Ingram. He's the pass-catching guy there. 1 rush TD, 5 targets, 10 rushes, looking like a high-end running back 2 in standard leagues. And then PPR, he's looking like a locked-in running back 1. So lock him in. And then Isaiah Crowell, I know you and I disagree on this. A lot, but hear this out. He's had 3 weeks in a row where he's gotten double-digit points in PPR scoring. So it was 11 and then 16, and then this past week he had 90 yards and 1 rush TD. So to me, he's looking like a high-end flex, low-end running back 2. Not what you drafted him as, for sure not. But the identity of that team is kind of coming into its own. Deshaun Kaiser's getting a little better. They're starting to run it a little bit. So it's only a matter of time before he hits the century mark and starts getting more touchdowns through rushing.
Yeah, I'm with it if the Browns are going to continue to get garbage time points, but for some reason they were up on Detroit for a good portion of their game this week, and I don't know. It's just I don't know how much of this stat line is Detroit just being really bad on D, and how much of it is Crowell, coming into his own and becoming a bigger part of the offense. I think we might see a couple games coming forward where the Browns do get absolutely shredded and they got to play from behind and they throw the ball to Duke Johnson as opposed to putting Crowell on the field. So that's what worries me the most. But I will say the production looks like it's starting to finally come around where you can at least consider putting him in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he started off the season averaging, maybe 2 or 3 yards a carry. He was looking pretty bad. I don't know if he's going to get he has 16 for 90 this year or in this past week. I don't know if he's going to have that kind of production every time, but if they keep him involved in the passing game and Deshaun Kaiser keeps improving, there's no reason to see why Crowell can't have a little more success than he was having earlier in the season.
Yeah, definitely getting the yards per carry up. He's up to 3.7 on the year. Before this past 3 weeks, it was pretty low, but I think you have to plug him into your lineup. He's only going to get better here. I mean, his floor at least. All right, wide receivers. We talked about Robert Woods, wide receiver 2, looking like 171 yards again. We mentioned this guy too, Adam Thielen, 166 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 12 targets. So PPR, he looks like a pretty locked in low end wide receiver 1, but he's getting a ton of work and now starting to get touchdowns into that factor too.
Yeah, I'll keep it nice and short. This guy is probably still one of the most underrated players in the league. He's really, really good, and we just talked about Case Keenum before. Case Keenum's playing really well, and a big part of that is his receivers, but Adam Thielen came out of nowhere this year. This guy is emerging as a fantasy star.
Yeah, there's no reason not to love Thielen, and there's no reason not to love Case Keenum throwing the ball to Thielen, because every time Keenum's in the game, it seems to find him. Thielen has not had a game this season where he's had less than 5 catches. If you're in a PPR league and you're not starting him, you should probably not be in your league.
Your name might be Rob Diesendorf.
And if
funny.
If he has a bye week, then definitely play him, Rob.
Actually, Rob did play him against me this week in one of our leagues. So
wow,
I'll take that back. I'll take back what I said.
Yeah,
you should.
Still
being
beat
a dick. Really quick stat on him. He's on pace for over 1,400 yards.
Wow.
And he has 793 yards right now through, 9 games because they had to bye. And 2 touchdowns, so looking like a locked-in guy there. Another blue-chip guy, Sterling Shepard. He had 13 targets, 11 catches for 142 yards. Looking like a wide receiver, too. He's getting a ton of work for the Giants.
Yeah, he's like him and Ingram are the only 2 things they have going for them. And I think as long as he's going to continue to see that volume, you got to plug him in. I think he's a locked-in wide receiver, too.
If you have Manning throwing the ball, it's either going to be to Sterling Shepard or the tight end, Evan Ingram. And I think you're just going to have to pick which one is going to get the most receptions in the game. But he is the number 1 target on that team. There's no reason that he can't flourish in that offense.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bad matchup. He had San Francisco, but the bad part of San Francisco's defense is their rush defense, right? So we were expecting Orleans Darkwa to have a bigger game, but Sterling Shepard had 13 targets, 11 catches. It's pretty good efficiency there. So I would put him in the lineup since in a PPR league for sure as a wide receiver too. Let's talk about tight ends. Jimmy Graham had 2 touchdowns. Austin Hooper 6 for 49 with 1 touchdown on 6 targets, and then Jermaine Gresham on Arizona.
Oh my God.
Jermaine Gresham. We've never said that name before this year. 7 targets with 5 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. So, first of all, are we picking up Jermaine Gresham on Arizona, or are we not?
I mean, it's tough to tell what, Drew Stanton's favorite targets are going to be or, who he likes on that team, but I don't think he's worth the pickup. And based on the other 2, honestly, Jimmy Graham, I think, had under 40 yards. He might have had under 30 yards this week. And Austin Hooper, again, has had plenty of games this year where he's just put up, under 15 yards. So, again, tight end is just looking like a revolving door of, just hoping you get a guy that gets in the end zone. So, these guys look great this week, but I wouldn't really feel comfortable with any of the 3 outside of probably Graham just because of his red zone pedigree.
Yeah, the answer on Gresham is no. The dude is garbage. he steps around once every 16
Telling it like
games.
it is, I like it.
And I also want to give a shout out to Rob here for putting Hooper on the bench.
Good job, Rob.
Also, when it comes to Jimmy Graham, it feels like the Seahawks are finally starting to. Rather, Wilson is starting to find him in the red zone, and as long as that keeps going on, I mean, the dude's going to put up points, even if he doesn't get a ton of yards. If you get 6 points a pop.
Yeah, you would think they would figure that out earlier. Like, he's been on the team for over 2 years. You would think they would have figured this out by now, but I guess hopefully this is here to stay.
Yeah, well, it seems like they're getting better with that every year, but he's on pace for 11 touchdowns. Not that many yards, 600, a little over 600, but still, red zone, points are points. And he has a pretty favorable matchup the rest of the way. Jermaine Gresham, a quick stat on him. I don't think you pick him up, but put him on your watch list. He's had a touchdown the last 2 weeks, and that's basically with backup quarterbacks like Drew Stanton, or we got Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback coming up, but they might rely on the tight end a little bit more. So maybe you have Jack Doyle or, someone that's underperforming, Ed Dixon or something. Maybe pick up Gresham or put him on your watch list at the very least. Could be worth it. I think I disagree with you there, Andrew.
I mean, just based on how thin the position is, maybe, but that's
that's the whole reason. He's like a low end tight end too because the position is so garbage.
Before we move on, at what point do we start treating tight end like the third coming of kicker and defense, where it's just you're just it's kind of just like a wash. You're just hoping that you figure something out.
Yeah, pretty soon.
It's crazy. If you don't have Gronk or Kelsey or Ertz, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, even Delaney Walker and Greg Olsen got hurt, but even Delaney Walker, who's usually mark of consistency at tight end, hasn't been doing well. Yeah, I agree. Defenses and kickers, the blue chip guys. Falcons had 17 points. The Rams had 16 points. Patriots had 13 points. Patriots are starting to come on, starting to get double-digit points in consecutive weeks. And then Greg Zuerlein, Legatron, once again, 17 points, I think. He had 3 for 3 extra points, 4 for 4 field goals. How good is Legatron? I want to hear a hot take on Legatron.
Oh, my God.
Anything?
I think the U.S. men's national soccer team should take a serious look at him. That's what I think.
I think Listen, we keep talking about this Rams offense that's putting up points. You have the kicker.
Yeah.
What are they putting up? I don't know, 33 points a game? Let's say they're putting up. He's getting fucking 21 of them.
Yeah.
The dude
very
is
true.
ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Seriously, though, he is.
Greg, we love you. Sponsor us.
Love you. Sponsor us, Legatron.
All right, so those were our blue chip guys for week 10, the guys that helped you win your week. And these are the duds. Now, look, last week, we talked about it, in last week's pod. But last week, if fantasy football was a box of milk duds, last week was the box that was melted together in one just disgusting mess.
Ugh.
Is not, you just looked inside the box and you threw it away, right?
Uneatable.
This week's not quite as bad, but we have some interesting names here, guys, we haven't seen here before. We're going to start with our Milk Duds Dud of the Week. Just like last week, we have 3 guys to nominate here, and I don't think any of these 3 have been in the dud list at all this year. Antonio Brown, top 3 overall pick this year, number 1 overall wide receiver coming into this week. Only had 3 catches for 47 yards against the Indianapolis Colts, and his teammate Juju Smith-Schuster outscored him for the second time in the last 3 weeks. Tyrod Taylor, Bills quarterback, had 56 yards passing and an interception, and Melvin Gordon had only 27 yards rushing, and his backup, Austin Eckler, vultured 2 touchdowns from him. So, yikes. 3 brutal performances from guys that we typically don't see here. I'll leave it up to you guys. Who do you think is the gold medal dud of the week this week?
I'm going to go, Antonio Brown still had 7 targets, so I'm going to chalk it up to like Big Ben just not being able to find him. And Juju Smith-Schuster is really, he's just killing second cornerbacks. So I'll chalk it up to that. Melvin Gordon, that was a really weird game, but he still got a lot of work as well. So I'm going to give it to Tyrod Taylor. 56 yards through the air. He got benched for Nathan Peterman, their 3rd-round pick in the draft this week or whatever, or this year. 1 interception. He was really coming into his own. He was looking like a QB1, like a low-end QB1. Plus, They just traded for Kelvin Benjamin. He was in this game. They got Charles Clay back. He was in this game, and he still had 56 yards against New Orleans. Yes, New Orleans' defense is getting better, but it's still the Saints. Like, you got to put up more than 56 yards, man.
Yeah, I agree. Just last week we were kind of singing this guy's praises, so I'm going to second him for the gold medal. McCarty, what do you think?
I'm down there because as soon as the Bills fell behind, you would think Tyrod's going to throw for 300 yards like he did against the Jets. But no, 56 yards. 56 yards. He probably ran for more than 56 yards. It's complete garbage.
It's crazy. Oh, my God. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. And then Antonio Brown, he killed me on one of my teams. I probably wouldn't have won anyway, but you're counting on a lot more. And we'll talk about him. Let's talk about him right now. Why not? The Steelers, what are they doing there? They almost lose to the Colts, and Antonio Brown only gets 7 targets. Clearly, there's a connection there. And then Melvin Gordon, I think, he just got, beat by the vulture. So I'm going to put Antonio Brown in the silver medal spot, as long as that's all right with you guys.
Steelers fan here. All right, let's talk about the Steelers for a little bit.
Nice.
They will go on the road and beat Kansas City, right? And then they'll come home and face a terrible team and make it close or lose. They do this every year. Every year they beat the teams that they're supposed to lose to, and then they go on the road and play the shittiest teams in the NFL, and they play down to their level.
Yikes! That's not what you want.
Antonio Brown was going up against what has been the worst secondary in the NFL, and 3 for 47. You got to make a case. If Tyrod didn't suck as much as he did, Brown would be the gold standard for dud.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah, it's 7 targets. It's the same as Juju Smith-Schuster, but the last 3 weeks, it just looks like it's Juju Smith-Schuster more and more. Antonio Brown he's still on pace for over 1,500 yards, only 5 touchdowns. That's the other thing, but looked brutal. Indianapolis, they're one of the worst pass defenses against wide receivers this year for fantasy. I agree.
All right, so that wraps it up then for that part of the segment. So I'm going to go Tyrod Taylor gold, Antonio Brown silver, Melvin Gordon bronze, and let's just wrap up the QBs real quick. Josh McCown. We kind of knew it was fool's gold coming into this week. He only had a touchdown and a pick for the Jets. He's still probably a usable like high-end QB2, especially 2-quarterback leagues. I would love this guy just because he's going to chuck the ball around because, the Jets are, let's face it, a middling team at this point. But I don't know. I wouldn't count on him in 1-quarterback leagues.
Yeah, he's on a bye next week anyway, so take him out. But I think like I was almost, it was like Invasion of the Body Snatchers last week. I think we were like singing his praises as like almost a QB1. He's not a QB1. I don't know why.
That's the home field advantage here for McCown.
Yeah, I guess he's a QB2. So don't act like he's don't put him in your lineup as a QB1.
All right, let's get to some of these other running backs besides Melvin Gordon, who we mentioned already. LaShawn McCoy only had 8 carries for 49 yards. Great yards per carry there, but, again, under 10 carries. Adrian Peterson had 21 carries for 29 yards and a fumble, which is really tough. And then Tariq Cohen has just disappeared after a hot start to the year. 2 touches for 11 yards. Obviously, McCoy is still running back 1 for us, and I think we agree that Peterson's more of a matchup-dependent RB2, and Cohen's like a barely usable flex. But which of these guys do you think is most likely to help you in the fantasy playoffs? So moving forward for the rest of the year, which one of these guys, relative to their draft position, is going to like really kill it?
Yeah, I mean, relative to their draft position, that changes things a little bit because if you use the first-round pick on LaShawn McCoy and you're expecting top-end running back 1 production, and he hasn't been giving you that. But I still think he turns it around. They just got away from the run in this game. 8 for 49 just means they were down so badly. They only had the ball for 18 minutes in that game. The Saints had the ball for 42 minutes because they were running it so much, which is insane. But they just didn't have the ball. So 8 for 49 with 18 minutes is, I guess it's not that bad. But I think that defense has too much pride. They're going to turn it around. They'll get back to their run game. Hopefully, Kelvin Benjamin comes into his own and opens things up for that running game. So I would say McCoy and then Peterson and Cohen in that order.
Wait, let me rephrase my question before we keep going. Can you see a scenario where you trust Adrian Peterson or Tariq Cohen in the fantasy playoffs? I'll shoot that at McCarty. Or McCarty, sorry.
I'm down to Peterson and Cohen. That's what you're telling me?
I'm saying, like, what kind of scenario do you need to be in to trust one of these guys in the playoffs? I don't know if I can.
If I am in a PPR league, I would definitely trust Cohen a lot more than Peterson.
Okay.
We've seen Peterson have some success in recent games with the volume, but I don't know. Last game, kind of an enigma. You're playing the Seahawks. That defensive front is ridiculous. And I know that he gained, 8 more yards than he had carries, which is pretty bad, but I would chalk it up to that's the Seahawks. You're really not going to run on them. I think Bruce Arians loves the run. He's not going to get away from it, so Peterson is still viable going forward. With your stand, you're not going to throw the ball 50 times, hopefully. So they're not really going to go away from the run that much.
One thing about Tariq Cohen that kind of scares me, though, in looking at his stats, he's had 5 carries over the last 3 weeks. So they had the bye in week 9, but week 7 they played Carolina, 8 at New Orleans, and then week 10 at home versus Green Bay. He's had 5 carries for 3 yards and 1 touchdown in that time frame, and 1 catch each game. So yeah, he had the 1 catch for 70 yards against Carolina in week 7, but he's had, only 8 touches the last 3 weeks. It's 3 touches a game. And 2 touches 3 touches in 2 games and 2 touches in the other. So he's just not getting the volume there. He kind of scares me. So I would probably trust Adrian Peterson a little bit more, even though he's very matchup dependent. But that's just me.
Yeah, and it sucks because Cohen's such a fun player too. All right, let's move to the wide receivers. I think we agree that Antonio Brown, you lock him and load him every week, regardless of what happens. However, Des Bryant only had 4 catches for 39 yards for the Cowboys, with Zeke out, where we thought they might lean on the pass a little bit more. And then Kelvin Benjamin, as we mentioned before, the Bills didn't play well, but he had 3 catches for 42 yards. Out of Dez and Kelvin, who do we like more moving forward?
Honestly, I think the potential of Kelvin Benjamin on the Bills is a lot greater. Like, we've seen what Dez can do, and he's just been hampered by injuries. He hasn't had over 100 yards in any game this season. He's had 4 touchdowns, which is great, but yardage-wise, he's been very middling. And he did have 8 targets, but only 4 catches and just couldn't convert them. And he also has some tough matchups coming up. The Giants with Janoris Jenkins, Washington with Josh Norman, Philadelphia has some good rookie cornerbacks. The Chargers have a shutdown cornerback, so he has some tough matchups. And I just think you got to give Kelvin Benjamin some time to figure it out with Tyrod Taylor. They'll have 10 more days before their next game, right? Because they played on, they played on Thursday the week before. They'll have some time to figure it out. I think he has a much higher ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, Des Bryant, I don't know. If this is Tony Romo we're talking about, he used to force feed the ball to Des Bryant.
Yeah.
If it's Romo throwing the ball, I'm taking Des all day long. But Prescott loves to spread the ball around, and he's not afraid of Des Bryant's vivacious personality from coming to get him if he's not getting him the ball.
I like that. Romo, we miss you, man. Get back on the field.
Miss you.
No, we love him in the booth, too. Yeah, Romo sponsor us. All right, tight ends. Jack Doyle, 2 catches for 9 yards for the Colts. In a game where they hung in there with the Steelers, too. So I'm pretty disheartened by that, but I think he's still a tight end 1. Charles Clay came back off an injury. I think we might be able to chalk this bad game up to that, too, for him, as well as the Saints just dominating them. Only 2 catches. Hunter Henry and Cameron Brate, 2 guys that I see in very similar boats. Each had 1 catch. And I think Doyle is a guy you lock into your lineups, but the rest of them seem to be tight end 2s. Which one of these guys do you like the most moving forward?
I like Clay. The first 4 weeks of the season, he was a top almost 5 tight end there, and he just was too injured this week. He had 3 targets, looked a little hampered, looked a little slow, and that team, Buffalo just didn't do well on Sunday. So I trust him the most. He's only going to get healthier and healthier. Hunter Henry, the last 2 weeks, he's had 3 catches for 18 yards, which is not tight end 1. That's barely tight end 2 there, if at all. I mean, that's benchable. And then Cameron Brate has been brutal the last couple of weeks as well. And the worst part of that is O.J. Howard hasn't even been doing well either. That team is just not throwing it to the tight end. So I would trust Clay the most out of those guys. And I agree, Doyle will have a bounce-back week. He'll be a tight end 1 the rest of the year.
I've been very, very disappointed in Hunter Henry this season. I had huge expectations for him. I thought he and Rivers were going to get on the same page and dominate, and they just haven't really clicked, which is weird because last season when Gates went down with injury and Hunter Henry stepped in, he killed it. So not really sure what's going on there. I don't know. Disappointed.
Yeah, what's going on with these offenses, right? Even the Chargers, they're relatively high flying compared to what the Bucs and the Bills are doing, but when Austin Eckler is your, main skill position guy in a week, something's up there. Yeah, that's just
pissed
crazy.
Me the hell off. I've scored in 2 or 3 leagues. Sorry, 3 leagues. What the fuck is that guy doing on the field? Yeah. Eckler? I don't even know how to say his last name. Eckler? Get out of here.
Oh, man, we're going to leave it at that. We'll go over the defenses and kicker real quick. Actually, I don't even think we have any supremely negative kicker performances, so we'll leave them out for now. The Bills, -8 fantasy points, 81 points allowed in the last 2 weeks, and in the same boat, the Broncos had -3 fantasy points this week. They've let up 92 points in the last 2 weeks. Yikes. Those two teams are normally models of consistency on D, and just they're looking like turnstiles right now. This is crazy.
Yeah, and they played 2 of the best offenses, so we got to give them a little slack, but at the same time, even the last 2 weeks, the Bills have given up 81 points. They played the Jets 2 weeks ago, and the Broncos 92 points. I mean, they played New England, but still giving up a ton of points. So looking like 2 defenses. I would hold on to them, but I just wouldn't feel comfortable starting them every week like you usually do.
I think Derek Wolfe said it best after the Broncos game is that they're just disappointed. They don't know what to do. I mean, listen, you bring Tom Brady into town. If you started the Broncos defense this week, that's on you.
Yeah, very true.
With Brady and all of the backs that they have and Gronk up the middle, I mean, you're not going to cover. Yeah, you're not going to cover them. They have 2 shutdown corners, and that's what they did. They shut down the wide receivers, but then the middle of the field is wide open, and that's what they attacked.
Yep, it's kind of depressing, honestly, when the Broncos aren't good because they have such fun players on D. Aqib Talib, Von Miller, Chris Harris, but this is the state of the NFL right now, and while other defenses like the Saints are figuring it out, I guess other ones got to drop off.
Agreed.
All right, so
the Vikings only had 1.2.
Yeah, so what's going on here with these defenses? Anyway, that wraps it up for the duds. McCarty, it was great to have you. I can't wait to meet you in the playoffs. It's going to be a great matchup. Hopefully Scott's not eliminated by then. And, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I think y'all better watch out for me, though.
Rob's coming with a vengeance.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
You got it.
All right, let's talk about the waiver wire for Week 10, guys that'll help you in Week 11 and moving forward. We're going to highlight 2 guys each. So my first guy is Jamal Williams, the Green Bay running back. You saw his teammates Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery both go down with injury. Ty Montgomery re-injured his ribs, so looking like potentially a multi-game absence. And then Aaron Jones had an MCL injury, like we mentioned, looking like he's out for 3 to 6 weeks. So this is Jamal Williams' job to lose right now, and could help with the playoff push here. He had 20 rushes and over 65 yards this week, so looking like a good running back, maybe 2 for the rest of the regular season in fantasy. And then Rex Burkhead, the New England running back, is my other ad, my number 2 ad. This past week he had 10 rushes, he had 4 receptions. He's just a more complete back than Mike Gillislee. And he's the number 2 guy behind Deion Lewis, sure, but he's still getting a ton of work in that role. Mike Gillislee was inactive this past week because teams just knew how to game plan for him. They knew they were going to rush the ball. Burkhead kind of gives them a little bit more of a disguise there. So, look, he's had a couple of good weeks in a row, strung together 3 good weeks. So, looking like a good, maybe bench stash for now, and could help you in the playoff time.
Yeah, and I can't think of a more Bill Belichick prototype player than Rex Burkhead. He also blocked a punt in Week 10. Doesn't get much more Patriot way than that. All right, so my number 1 ad for this week is a wide receiver, and it's Tennessee Titans rookie Corey Davis. This guy was coming back off an injury this week and had 4 catches for 48 yards, and you'll notice in your box scores that he only had 2 fantasy points, but that's because he fumbled on this freak play where he was reaching for the pylon and fumbled through the side of the end zone. So that easily could be 4 for 48 and a touchdown. Clearly, this guy is the most explosive wide receiver on the Tennessee Titans, and they're going to need to get him going if they're going to, piece together that offense to any semblance of consistency. Right now, it's basically just DeMarco Murray and a whole bunch of nothing else. If Corey Davis can emerge, they could be a good team. So I think Corey Davis is a nice speculative ad moving forward, and then Greg Olsen is my number 2. Might not play in Week 11. Actually, I don't think he's even activated for Week 11, but he's coming back soon, and tight end's been so thin this year that I think, if you have the bench space to go get a Greg Olsen a couple weeks early, I would go do it.
Yeah. To pick those guys up, you got to drop some guys. So guys that are likely cuttable in redraft. Again, position by position. Only have 1 quarterback, Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay quarterback. Again, this coming up, this is going to be a second week from that AC joint sprain or whatever injury it was. But it kind of feels like if their season is lost, they're going to shut him down for longer to make sure he's fully healthy for next year.
Yep.
But I dropped him in a couple of leagues. Think you could do the same. Maybe pick up Case Keenum in his place. And then one other guy that I want to highlight to drop. I know you want to talk about the next guy after that, but Mike Gillislee on New England, the running back. Again, healthy scratch this week. They're kind of giving the job to Deion Lewis and Rex Burkhead as like 1A and 1B there. James White is the pass-catching guy, but Mike Gillislee looks like the odd man out there, so I think he's cuttable in redraft leagues right now.
Yeah, and another guy that we had on this list is Sammy Watkins, the Rams wide receiver. I think he's a guy that I would not trust at all just because I think Robert Woods has emerged as the clear number 1 there. But given his pedigree and given, obviously, what the Rams paid to get him, I think your league mates are probably going to overrate Sammy Watkins, especially with him catching touchdowns the last 2 weeks. I think he's more of a sell medium guy. He's not a sell high guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a sell medium guy rather than a drop just because he's a function of this Rams offense. Even if he's an accessory, the Rams are so freaking good that he's someone that you could probably get someone for if you look to trade him.
Yeah, I like that. And the reason you can't trust him is not getting targeted a lot, but he is getting long touchdowns, so that could give one of your league mates the hankering for him. All right, let's play the stock market. Let's play the stock market, right? Am I right? So we're going to highlight some guys that are trending up, stock rising, and then after that, some guys that are trending down, stock falling. First, trending up. We're going to talk about 2 guys per position. So quarterbacks, we got Jared Goff and Case Keenum. Jared Goff has 7 touchdowns the last 2 weeks combined. Case Keenum had 4 touchdowns this past week. Jared Goff looks like a fringe QB1. Keenum like a QB2.
I completely agree, and let me just pose you this question, and then we can move on to running backs. How bad of a coach is Jeff Fisher? He had both these guys on his team last year.
He is the worst. He's the most mediocre. He's just the mark of mediocrity. The most mediocre coach in the NFL ever. I don't know how that guy got a job year after year. It blows my mind.
I mean, he clearly had a ton of talent in his QB room, but didn't get anything out of them. So, yeah, I agree. Let's look at the running backs. I mentioned Tevin Coleman earlier as becoming, in my mind, a running back 1 with Devontae Freeman out. And then Deion Lewis has really emerged for the Patriots. I think he had a long touchdown. He actually had a kickoff return touchdown for them, doing a little bit of everything. Again, that's the Patriot way. What are your thoughts on these 2 guys?
Yeah, I mean, Tevin Coleman, so the 1A to Coleman's 1B is typically Devontae Freeman, but Freeman has a concussion. This is his 2nd concussion this year. So if they're smart, they're going to shut him down for at least a few games. And this is a perfect time for Tevin Coleman. Teams looking to get into make a playoff push. He looks like a running back 1, maybe a low-end running back 1. But for the next 4 weeks, or at least like 2 weeks that Freeman's out, Coleman looks like a solid guy. Deion Lewis also looks like a solid guy. Maybe not as explosive as like Rex Burkhead or as pass catching. He doesn't have the pass catching prowess that James White has, but he's the best all around back there. So looks like a running back, low end running back 2 for me with a capped ceiling. Wide receivers that are trending up: Robert Woods on the Rams and Robbie Anderson on the Jets. Woods has been killing it. He had 2 touchdowns this past week, also 2 last week, and Robbie Anderson the last 4 weeks has had a touchdown and a couple over 100 yards. So both those guys are trending upwards. Who do you like more the rest of the year, Robert Woods or Robbie Anderson?
I'm just going to say Robert Woods because I think the Rams are going to be in every single game they play. They're going to be putting up points. The Jets, we saw, are a little bit more inconsistent. Robbie Anderson's touchdown was more of a function of garbage time this weekend. I mean, obviously the game was close, but the game was pretty much over when Robbie Anderson scored. So Robert Woods, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago in the Hail Mary section, he's quietly emerged. Well, at that point, he had quietly emerged as the guy, Jared Goff's guy, and now everybody knows about it. I think Robert Woods is probably a wide receiver 2 moving forward, and then Robbie Anderson's probably a flex guy moving forward for me. All right, and let's look at some tight ends. Very thin position, but these guys are trending upwards. Austin Hooper on the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, with Freeman out, they kind of shifted their game plan a little bit, and Hooper had a nice week. And then the Oakland Raiders' Jared Cook, who has developed a pretty nice rapport with Derek Carr. Both these guys, I think, are very low-end tight end ones, but I think these are guys that if you roster them, you got to plug them in your lineup. Which one of these guys do you like moving forward?
Yeah, they're both inconsistent, right? But Hooper is just, he got 49 yards this week, like 37 the week before, so he's not going to get a ton of yards. It's really if he gets touchdowns. Jared Cook is getting a ton of yards. So to me, that's a good litmus test of tight ends, especially, or any pass catcher. They're getting a lot of yards. They're getting a lot of targets. They're getting a lot of work and a lot of, that leads to eventually touchdowns because it'll translate into red zone looks. So I like Jared Cook the rest of the year, even though they're both inconsistent. All right, let's look at stock market trending down. Guys that their stocks are trending downwards. Maybe some guys to buy low on, but we'll let you know if you shouldn't. QBs, Josh McCown on the Jets and Tyrod Taylor on the Bills. Tyrod Taylor just threw for 56 yards against New Orleans and got benched. He's going to be the starter. It was just announced, but not a good game for a guy that we thought might be a low-end QB1. Looking like a QB2. Same with McCown. Who do you like the rest of the year better?
This is like shocking, but I think I like McCown better. I think the Bills, if Tyrod Taylor is another game like the one he had this week, they might go with Peterman moving forward, and I think the Jets at least are more committed to McCown because he's played well for them this year, probably better than expected. Tyrod Taylor's been a little bit worse than I think they were expecting. So just based on the fact that there's a chance that Tyrod Taylor loses his job, which is crazy to me, but just based on what I think the Bills are thinking, I'll say McCown is a little bit safer moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tyrod Taylor has shored that position up for the Bills. Like before 2015, their QBR was lower than 30, I think. And he's brought it up to like 55, 60, which is very respectable. So they'd be crazy to bench him, but it it might happen in the coming weeks based on how he's been playing the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's look at some running backs that are also trending down. This guy I don't think is in trouble of losing his job, but Melvin Gordon had a very down week this week, and Austin Eckler had a couple touchdowns. Javorius Buck Allen, another guy that's trending downwards. Which one? I mean, obviously these guys are in different stratospheres as far as the running back, position. But how do we feel about Buck Allen? I think we agree that Gordon's going to be fine. He's probably a buy low guy, but is Buck Allen is he going to stick, or is he just going to start to fade away?
I think he's going to fade away. The guy that he basically replaced was Terrence West, who had a really good week 1 and then just fell off the face of the earth and has been injured the past 4 weeks. It's only a matter of time before West comes back and just vultures some work from Allen. Also, Danny Woodhead might come back soon. He might get off the PUP list.
True.
And at that point, I mean, Buck Allen is the main pass-catching back, but he only took over because, he's only there because of 2 injuries to West and Woodhead might come back, and same with West. So Buck Allen's stock is just only going to go down. I would just try to sell him for anything you can get at this point, and pick up Woodhead in PPR leagues. Wide receivers trending downwards. It's tough to kind of see what his value is the rest of the year, but Kelvin Benjamin, the new Buffalo Bill, only had 3 catches and 42 yards this past week. Didn't look to be on the same stratosphere as Tyrod Taylor. And then Marvin Jones on Detroit. You saw Kenny Golladay come back this past week, and Marvin Jones just got bottled up. So out of these guys, who would you rather have the rest of the year moving forward?
I would definitely rather have Kelvin, just because he means so much more to his team, and I think he's such a better player than Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones had his moment in the spotlight, and I think a lot of people kind of bit, they fell for it, but Marvin Jones is not going to be a consistent fantasy guy for you.
I agree.
All right, and then let's wrap up with a couple tight ends that are trending downwards. Oddly enough, I kind of like both of these guys moving forward. Cincinnati Bengals tight end Tyler Kroft, and then Buffalo Bills tight end Charles Clay. I think they're both in the tight end 1, low tight end 1 discussion. But which one of these guys can you see having a big rest of the year?
I think Clay. Clay is going to come back at the perfect time for fantasy owners to make a push for the playoffs and potentially for the playoffs. Again, the first couple of weeks of the season, he was a tight end 1. And Tyler Kroft on the Bengals in replacing Tyler Eifert has done respectable, but he really needs the touchdown to do well for your team. He's typically getting anywhere from 20 to 50 yards a game, which is, again, not bad, but it's not tight end 1 production if you're not getting touchdowns. So I would rather have Clay.
Yeah, Tyler Kroft, right now he's kind of like a hypothetical fantasy football player as opposed to a locked in one.
Exactly.
All right, so we like the Bills to bounce back is basically what we're taking out of that. I would buy low on the Bills offense if you could. Obviously, I said I like McCown more than Tyrod, but that's just based on the fact that the Bills look like they're starting to waver on him. If they, commit to him long term, or at least for the rest of the year, I would buy low on every single member of the Bills offense.
All right, let's talk about Week 11. Would you rather? Week 11 preview. To start, we got teams on bye next week: the Carolina Panthers, the Indianapolis Colts, the New York Jets, and the San Francisco 49ers. So take them out of your lineups. Starting with position by position, good, moderate, bad matchups, and then we got a special wild card one at the end of each. So quarterback, good matchups. To preface this, we have pretty much shitty quarterbacks, and the rest of the positions are all flex guys. So just know that, you're not benching your studs. So, good quarterback matchups. Ryan Fitzpatrick at Miami or Brock Osweiler versus Cincinnati.
Oh, my God. These are 2 of my least favorite quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
As much as it pains me to say it, I'll say Ryan Fitzpatrick just because of the guys around him. I think they're a little bit more functional than Denver's offense at this point, but I don't feel great about either one. I'll go Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I'll go Fitzpatrick. Miami just got literally pounced by Carolina and Cam Newton.
Nice.
All right. Moderate matchup, Eli Manning versus Kansas City or Blake Bortles at Cleveland.
Oh, man.
We're really scraping
You're
the bottom
killing
of
me
the
this
barrel
week.
here.
I'll go Eli. I think just based on the garbage time that is probably going to happen in that game. I think Eli could have a big numbers game. He's definitely going to throw a couple picks, but I'll take Eli.
I'm going to go Bortles because Cleveland, the strength of Cleveland's defense is in their rush defense. They've let up like the second lowest yards per carry to running backs. So I think and it feels like this might be a kind of a defensive battle. But I think Blake Bortles will win it for them at the end. Bad matchup, Kirk Cousins at New Orleans or Derek Carr versus New England.
Oh, man. These guys are like low-end QB1s against very good defenses. New England has really turned it around. I'll go with Kirk. He surprised me this week against Minnesota. And, obviously I don't think he's going to like blow the top off of New Orleans, but I think he could have a pretty good game.
I'm going to go Derek Carr versus New England. First of all, Oakland is home, which they play much better at. Derek Carr just came off the bye, so he's had some time to get rid of that back injury a little bit more. And Kirk Cousins just had 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the only reason he did that well this past week, so I'll go Carr.
All right, and the wild card. Would you rather wear yoga pants to work or work pants to yoga?
Oh, I love it. Yoga pants to work, done. End of story. Seal it up.
I think just for the intrigue of it, I'm going to wear work pants to yoga. I feel like you might like rip them. I think it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun way to go.
Sounds so uncomfortable.
I think you can get away with wearing work pants to yoga. I'm not sure if you can get away with wearing yoga pants to work. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the work pants to yoga.
For that reason, I am out.
And yeah.
All right, let's talk about would you rather running backs. Again, good, moderate, bad matchups, and then a little wild card for you. Good matchup, Amir Abdullah at Chicago or Doug Martin at Miami.
Ooh, this is tough. Both these guys are probably like high-end flexes for me, but I think I'll go with Amir Abdullah. I mean, obviously Theo Riddick is kind of emerging there in the Detroit backfield, but Abdullah has found the end zone recently, and I got to think it continues. I mean, Tampa Bay is a mess, so I can't trust them.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Doug Martin at Miami. We just saw on Monday night Jonathan Stewart, who came into that game with a yards per carry this year of like 2.98, had a yards per carry of like 6.5 or something like that against Miami. I'm going to go with Doug Martin. Although he's been kind of inconsistent and only had like 20 rushes for 51 yards this week, I think it'll turn around at Miami. Moderate matchup, Duke Johnson versus Jacksonville or Chris Thompson at New Orleans.
I'll go with Chris Thompson. I think Jacksonville is uniquely equipped to play the pass, especially their linebackers. They're very good against, the scat back, receiving running back type. And I think Chris Thompson is going to be pretty busy against the Saints defense. I think Washington's probably going to have to score a ton of points on them. As long as New Orleans' running game doesn't keep Washington off the field the whole game, I think Chris Thompson will have a nice day.
Yeah, I'll go Thompson also. Rob Kelly, the other running back there, is going to be out for a couple weeks and maybe even put on the IR. And then their other running back, Samaje Perine, is just not nearly as good as Chris Thompson. So I'll go with Thompson as well. Bad matchups, Tevin Coleman at Seattle or Jamal Williams, the Green Bay running back, versus Baltimore.
I'll go with Tevin Coleman here. I think he's a running back 1, and I think this is very intriguing for both of these guys, kind of like finally getting the backfield to themselves, but I'll go with Tevin Coleman. Seattle's not as scary as they seem on paper. They're starting to lose guys, especially in the secondary. So, obviously their front's still good, but I think Tevin Coleman could have a nice day.
I'm actually going to go Jamal Williams. As much as I love Tevin Coleman, I don't love at Seattle. That's the only thing. Seattle is so loud in that stadium. They're going to key in on Tevin Coleman. I feel like that passing game hasn't been nearly as good. And Jamal Williams, he hasn't really... he only had this past week to really showcase his talent, and that was just he was thrust into it. But he's going to be the only guy there. So versus Baltimore, I'm just taking a leap of faith with him over Coleman.
And the wild card, would you rather eat plain oatmeal or plain matzah?
Oh, matzah, no question. Plain oatmeal is awful. You need at least some cinnamon or some sort of flavor in there. I'll go with plain matzah.
Are we eating this for like breakfast or like a snack?
It's just there is no time.
I'm going to go, call me crazy, I'm going oatmeal because I do this for breakfast on like the weekends. I just make myself some regular old oatmeal because I feel like it's really good for you. And plain matzah, like just plain matzah, sounds awful. You need some butter on there or something.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the plain oatmeal because I feel like I'm doing something good for myself. With the plain matzah, it's just...
What are you doing?
It's a mess.
Yeah.
And I said this about the pretzels. I'm going to say it about the matzah. Your mouth's going to get dry.
Very
It's
true.
going to be too dry. It's going to be excessively dry.
Can we agree that, like, I don't know about butter and oatmeal, but, like, just for the sake of argument, like, butter and cinnamon on both of these things just makes it so much better.
Yep, I agree.
So dry, it could be a safety hazard.
I'm with you, Scott.
Thanks, man. All right, let's talk about wide receivers. Good matchups. Juju Smith-Schuster versus Tennessee on Thursday night, or Jordy Nelson versus Baltimore.
Oh, my God. I mean, just think about this question from the beginning of the year, and it's, like, absurd, but I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster. He's been really, really good the last couple of weeks, and, you know, obviously I don't know if it's going to keep up the entire year, but you might as well see if it's going to happen this week. I think I'd rather go Juju. Jordy is tough to take out of your lineup, but, you know, it's pretty scary. Like, you know, Green Bay is not the same team without Aaron Rodgers, so, you know, just based on the way things are going right now, I'll go with Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Juju as well. Over the past 3 weeks, he's been one of the top wide receivers in fantasy, and over the past 3 weeks, Jordy has been one of the worst compared to, like, anyone else. I mean, he's been doing terribly. And that's not really due to him. It's really due to his quarterback play. So I'll go with Juju Smith-Schuster as well. Moderate matchup, Marquise Lee at Cleveland or Brandon LaFell on Cincinnati at Denver.
Yeah, so both these guys had really good week 10s. I'll go with Marquise Lee. As much as I hate Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville passing offense, you know, Brandon LaFell had a good game, but he's going to be matched up against either Chris Harris or Aqib Talib, which is just a complete mismatch for him, you know, against him. So I'll go with Marquise Lee just based on the fact that he's playing Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Marquise Lee as well. Just feels like Brandon LaFell having good games doesn't add up. There's something fishy about that. And he's playing the no-fly zone at Denver, and Denver just got embarrassed by New England, so I don't think they do that to Cincinnati. I think they shut all those wide receivers down except for A.J. Green. Bad matchup, Robert Woods at Minnesota or Sterling Shepard versus Kansas City.
Do we think Robert Woods is going to get the Xavier Rhodes treatment? What do you think? Because that changes.
I think so. Xavier Rhodes got hurt. Yeah, Rhodes got hurt this past week, so be on the lookout for him. But let's just say he does get the Xavier Rhodes treatment, and let's go into the assumption Sterling Shepard is getting Marcus Peters, the cornerback, matching up on him as well. So they both have like two of the best shutdown cornerbacks basically playing.
Yeah, I mean, as great as Robert Woods has been the last couple weeks, in that case, I'll go with Sterling Shepard because he's a little bit more versatile. He can line up in the slot, and they're just going to be, I could just see it right now. Kansas City's probably going to jump out on them early, and then Eli's going to be chucking the ball all over the yard. And I think Sterling Shepard could have a similar game to the one he had this week where, you know, gets a ton of targets, gets, 125 plus yards. And Robert Woods at some point is going to, you know, teams are going to start to roll the coverage his way. And Minnesota's a well-coached team. I think it might happen this week.
Yeah, I mean, you look at week 10, Minnesota's defense has been pretty good all year. But week 10 was a bit of an anomaly. Washington put up 30 points on them, which is, you know, not the case, not the typical norm with them. But none of the wide receivers on Washington did well. So I'm going to go Sterling Shepard again. Yeah. Versatile. He can line up in the slot, get away from Marcus Peters. And Kansas City, as crazy as it sounds, is one of the worst teams defending the pass for wide receivers. So it doesn't really matter if Marcus Peters is out there or not. He's just not doing enough to really overcome everything else that that secondary can't do.
All right, and the wild card. Would you rather sleep on a bed of nails or on a bed of dirty sponges?
Jesus.
Wet dirty sponges.
Oh, wet dirty sponges or just dirty
Yeah,
sponges?
they're wet.
As gross as that is, I mean, a bed of nails, I feel like you wouldn't even survive the night. So I'm going to go with dirty sponges.
Yeah, I got to go dirty sponges. I just feel like a nail would it would hurt.
You have to get like a tetanus shot after, and yeah.
I think you got to get a tetanus shot, like regardless, like dirty sponges or nails. It feels
True.
like maybe that's a misconception, but dirty sponges sounds disgusting. But they're soft.
I like a firm mattress, so I think if I could
Oh my god!
If I could get a sheet over the nails, I think I might be able to bear it.
Oh my
I'm
god.
definitely really grossed out by the sponges.
Yeah, have fun with that. We'll see you the day after that. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure you won't be dead. Tight ends: Jared Cook versus New England, or C.J. Fedorowicz versus Arizona. Good matchup.
I mean, New England is probably going to key in on the wide receivers of Oakland, so I'll go Jared Cook. I think he has what it takes, and New England's linebacking core is not great. As great as their defense has been playing lately, I think that's one area where Oakland can beat them, and I think Jared Cook will, rack up a lot of yardage against New England.
I'm going to go C.J. Fedorowicz versus Arizona, actually.
Ooh.
I just don't trust Jared Goff in week-to-week matchups. As good as that matchup, enticing as the matchup is. Jimmy Graham just had 2 touchdowns against Arizona. And yes, only 27 yards, but still, Arizona's been very middling against the tight end. And C.J. Fedorowicz just kind of got his legs underneath him after this last game. This is his first game back in like 8 weeks. So I feel like he's going to have more practice reps with Tom Savage, and Savage is going to rely on him more this week at home. Moderate matchup: Kyle Rudolph versus the Los Angeles Rams, or Hunter Henry versus Buffalo.
Got to go with Kyle Rudolph. Just Hunter Henry's been terrible the last couple of weeks, and nothing that we've seen, is encouraging at all. And I think obviously Case Keenum likes his receivers a ton, but Kyle Rudolph is getting a little bit of work there, so I'll go with him.
Yep, I'm going to go Rudolph as well. Hunter Henry, again, the last 2 weeks has had 3 receptions for 18 yards. That's it. So I'm going Rudolph as well. Bad matchup: Charles Clay at Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Chargers.
It's a weekly thing.
I actually did that by accident that time. I didn't do it on purpose like I usually do. Anyway, bad matchup: Charles Clay at Los Angeles Chargers, or Tyler Kroft at Denver.
Real quick, Denver's been terrible against tight ends, but I'm still going to go with Charles Clay at the Chargers because, I think he's finally got his legs under him, like you mentioned with Fedorowicz. I think it's similar here with Clay. And I think that Buffalo's going to have to bounce back at some point. They're a very well-coached team, so I could see them having a rebound game this week, and I think Clay could be a big part of that.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kroft. I think he'll have a bounce-back week. And again, Denver, their no-fly zone really only applies to the wide receivers, so A.J. Green will probably still be fine, but all the other pass catchers will probably not do as well. And I feel like Tyler Kroft will have some openings in the middle of the field. Clay is just a little too hurt right now for me to trust, at this point.
And the wild card: would you rather slap a baby or push a senior citizen down a flight of stairs?
Oh my god!
Push an elderly person down a flight of stairs.
Oh my
so dark.
god! That is dark.
Yeah.
Do you have to slap them
Testing
hard?
your morals.
Do you have to slap the baby hard?
Yes.
Wow. Ooh.
You could seriously injure or severely impact the livelihood of both people, both cases. Oh god. Let me think about it for a minute.
Shit. I'm gonna go with senior citizens.
I got
because they've lived their lives, and I don't want to do damage to a baby. That's horrible.
Yeah, but I feel like if you push an elderly person down a flight of stairs, that's it. That's it. So I think you gotta, as shitty as it is, I think you gotta slap the baby.
I don't know. That's a really hard one, Rob. I don't appreciate
A baby's not gonna remember
that.
that. You know what I mean? It's just gonna.
Yeah, but
in
you
and
can
out.
do some damage to that baby,
No, I completely agree. I don't want to do either one. Don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying that could be it for that elderly person that you push down a flight of stairs.
Yeah,
and you don't want that on your conscience.
Oh my god. Oh Jesus.
Leave it to Rob to
I think
come up with this stuff.
I'm going with the elderly person. I'm pushing the elderly person down the stairs.
Oh god.
Because it's the end of the road for them anyway.
Oh my
I don't want to
God.
screw
Oh
up
my
an
God.
entire baby's life. I'd rather just cut the other ones short.
Oh well, a key element here is I can't slap very hard. So that's the key. I'm not doing any damage.
You can't slap hard?
No. I'm a terrible
Why?
I'm a terrible slapper.
What? Are you really?
What?
It's
That's a cop out.
How do you know? How do you know this?
from when I've slapped people
All
before.
right, no answer. I like that.
They asked me if like a fly landed on them or something. They're like, "What's going on?" I didn't feel anything. I don't know. Whatever, guys. Just leave it to Rob. Just leave it to Rob to go this dark in the Would You Rathers.
Yeah, this is all Rob. Anyway,
I think the smart choice is to push the elderly person down the stairs because they have less life left.
Right.
And if you slap the baby, you could screw up their whole life. You could screw up their psychology.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
on that note,
old person's already lived a good life.
Let's talk about some streaming defenses on that note. Am I right? Oh God.
Oh God.
All right.
Can we cut out that whole part?
Nope. We're keeping it.
Oh God. The streaming defenses: Houston Texans versus Arizona. So Arizona might have Blaine Gabbert starting. The other quarterback, Drew Stanton, is dealing with a knee sprain. So Houston Texans are a really good streaming option. And then on the other end of the other side of the ball, the Cardinals are a good streaming defense as well at Houston because Houston sucks without Deshaun Watson. And the Dolphins are playing the Bucks. So you actually could probably pick up both of those defenses, the Bucks or the Dolphins. Another bad matchup. All right, this is it for Week 10 recap / Week 11 preview. We're in the double digits, people. It's a fantasy playoff time. It's a fantasy playoff push. It's crunch time.
Crunch time.
Don't bench your studs. Play your studs. Pick up high upside guys that'll help you in the next 4 weeks get to the playoffs. You only got to get to the playoffs. And then at that point, it's all about getting hot. So trust your studs.
Yep, and that about wraps it up. We are really getting deep into these episodes. So, guys, remember, keep listening. Give us a review on iTunes, and the most important thing ever, tell a friend. Share it with a friend. Share the podcast with a friend. It's the only way it's going to get out there, word of mouth. We could pay for advertising. We could go run through the streets with Unqualified painted on our chest, and it would literally do nothing for us. The only thing that will help is if you go and tell somebody that you know and let them know, hey, these guys are doing it themselves. You know, we're out here. We're independent. We're grinding. We're putting in the hours late at night. I could go on all day about this. Tell a friend. Well, see you later.
See you later.